So, welcome everybody. I hope you can hear me and you can see me very well. Today we are having a session on the power of resilience, and I'm Christina. I'm happy to guide you through this session. People are still joining, so we will wait for another minute before we start officially, so that everybody has the time to get used to Zoom. And if it's the first time you're using this tool, just have a look at the bar that you see either on top or on the bottom of the screen. So you there find all the important icons. So if you click on the number of participants, you can, or like the participant icon, you can see who else is in the call. There is also the chat function. So if you want to communicate with us, just use the chat. And yes, what's also very important is that you mute yourself. I think most of you are muted automatically now anyways. And if you want to talk, it's important that you unmute. This is the first icon that you can see on the left of the bar. And yeah, other than that, if you say something, just like quickly introduce yourself with your name so that we know who is talking. And I would also appreciate very much if you turn on the camera so that we can also see each other. And for sure, if you're like unavailable, have to go away for a minute, just like turn off your camera so that we know that you're unavailable. Yeah, that's it so far for the introduction. I hope you can see my screen very well. If there is anything, just let me know. And yeah, I'm very happy to also have Mel here from the Truth team and helping me with the coordination. So if you have any questions, she will also be happy to help out with private chat messages, for example. And yeah, so great that you're here, and I would suggest that we directly start. I already said a few words to myself, but just to give you the proper introduction, I'm Christina. I'm active in CASV now for over 10 years. Originally from Germany, I'm now living in Geneva. I'm also helping out as a Truth coordinator in this project, and I'm quite active in CSV in general. But in my real life, apart from volunteering, I do management consulting. I'm quite active as a trainer and also a coach. So that's why also this topic of resilience is something close to my heart, and I'm happy to share a little bit about this today. And yeah, if you have any questions now or afterwards, I'm always happy to connect with all of you, and drop me an email if you have any questions, even after today's online session. And yeah, it should not only be about me today, but also a lot about you. So it would be super handy if you have a second device, like a cell phone or something available, so that you can participate actively in also the polls that we are doing. So some of you might have used the tool called Mentimeter before. It's super straightforward. You either just like scan the QR code or go on the webpage menti.com. There you can enter the digit code that is indicated here to participate actively. And yeah, I would just ask you to try it out directly with the first poll. So for that, I will quickly share another screen so that you can see the question here directly. And I hope you already see the first question here on menti.com. We will use this tool also in like several times today. So this is the first one just to try it out and to get yourself familiar with it. So the first question is, who are you? Just write your name and one sentence about you. if you have any questions, or if it's not working, please use the chat. Great, some are missing. So great to have you, Catherine, Pime. Nina, great to have you as well. Great. Okay. So welcome everybody. So Mentimeter is working, that's great. So I would suggest we start with the topic, which is resilience. So what do you think, or what do you connect with resilience when you think of it? Just like write down as many ideas as you have. Yes, so we already see the first answers. So power, several people connect powering strength with resilience, but there's also opportunity, reflecting, overcoming, flexibility, elastic, which also goes into the flexibility, flexible strengths, education, it lasts, adapting. Yes, so I think you already summarized quite well what resilience is about. Some would add also maybe yeah, continuing in hard times, which also goes like into that direction, or having like also a positive outlook. So yeah, you summarized it here already quite well. And of course, there's also an official definition of resilience, which is the ability to bounce back from negative emotional experiences and also grow from challenges. There are many definitions. I choose that one because for me it pictures quite well this part of really bouncing back. And yeah, and there like might also be very different situations where it's very essential to be resilient. It might be, and not only now in 2020 with all the COVID-19 situation going on, but there are many like small situations in work, in volunteering, in your private life, with your family, where you have to show resilience like from an individual point of view. And as I stated in the introduction, for me personally, it's also a constant challenge to be resilient. And it's a topic that I'm always like in management trainings, but also for myself reflect a lot upon. So for today, I want to share with you a little bit about what resilience is about and how you can also become more resilient. And I would like to start with the protective factors. So when I talk about protective factors, there are like many variables that are contributing to how resilient you are. and one is like biology. So there are some people that are more resilient than others, just like by nature. So for me, for example, like I might not be the most optimistic person. So so this is something that's like given, and there is like this tendency. And having that said, it's very important to be very self-aware of where you are and how resilient you are personally, and having this this self-awareness also about situations where you might be not as resilient as you wish to be. So when you like feel like maybe that you're getting nervous, that you get sweaty hands, or that you're like stressed, that you get very emotional, all these like might be signs. And having this like awareness about your body and like emotions going on is something that's helping you to also protect you from situations, or like identify them very early on. So one is self-awareness, but there's also like this part of self-regulation. So knowing, for example, when I get stressed, like what to do. Like for example, for some people it helps like to breathe slowly, or like finding your like way to be more resilient in like regulating your own emotions, regulating your feelings. For me, something that always helps is drinking a sip of water. So that can be very personal, but like identifying what helps you to self-regulate is something that that can also be like a protective factor. Then we have like mental agility, having the said like flexibility of one of the things, or that you mentioned several times in the word cloud we just saw on the like what you connect with resilience. Having the flexibility and also the mental agility to react to situations differently is something that that is really helpful as well. Furthermore, like optimism is a great tool and a great way to become more resilient. And here, that's something you can actually learn. So yes, there is this like more tendency to be more optimistic, or like having more like negative thoughts. But optimism is something that you can learn, and we will also look a little bit into this topic later on how to be more optimistic, how to see the future in a brighter light, and also like with that improving your well-being and quality of life. Because yeah, just from like thinking about situations in a different way, you can actually not change the situation, but your own feelings and your own mindset about it. So yeah, optimism definitely something worth focusing on. Then I would like to add mastery. So mastery, like focusing on what you're really good at. So you can really like get like more strength and power in things that you know you will like handle very well. If it's like a presentation in front of people, or in any situation where you might also feel like anxiety, or feeling that it's all getting too much at that moment, like you could still rely on your strength, and know what you like master will be something that you can also rely on. So this is something I would also recommend to think of what are your strengths, what are you like in particular good at, because then it's always easier to really focus on that yeah, that part in a situation where you feel you might get overwhelmed and not being very resilient. And yes, then we have connections, so human connections most of all, being connected to other people, talking about feelings, talking about what you experience, your strengths, your weaknesses, that you also might not feel as resilient as you might be, also protect you. And there is some really interesting research showing that people who have very stable relationships with friends and family tend to be more resilient, because they have also this a support network they can rely on. So do not underestimate the power of people, and also these like personal relationships and connections that help you be more resilient in the longer term. And last but not least, positive institutions, like some of us do, or most of us probably, being active in CSV or in any other organization, volunteering, and yeah, having this like also the possibility to connect with other individuals, not only in a work setting, but also in an individual, or like let it be the church or any other positive institutional setup, is something that helps you also in difficult times to get supported, but also stay like mentally healthy and be more resilient. So yeah, having that all said and talked a lot, I want to now hand over to you. And as we are 10 people, I would suggest we form groups. We form 3 groups, and we will now discuss individually with our small group on how to act resiliently. And for that, I would like you to think of a situation where you have been like super stressed, or like think back of the most stressful situation you have found yourself, maybe in volunteering, or like if it's not volunteering, in another situation. And remember, what did you do in this situation? And another option would be to think of like a situation where someone put a lot of pressure to you, and like how to deal with that, or where you try to protect your team members to not feel too much pressure. And just think of, like, with these leading questions, think back of a situation where you felt that you had to be resilient. And I give you a minute or two to think of a situation, to really go back, think of what you experienced, what were your emotions, and also what did you do in this situation. And then I'll split you now up in 3 groups, and we will then discuss about the situations and collect some ideas on how we act to be more resilient. So to join the session, you have to click actively join the breakout session. So don't be surprised. I will stay in the main session for a few more minutes, so that I can help you adjust. And you have 10 minutes time to discuss in the small group your personal situation on acting resiliently. So if you have any struggles, let me know and I can help you out to join the group. Seems to be working for everybody. Great. Hello, we are currently in a breakout session discussing these questions. So I will add you to another breakout session.
I'm sorry, I'm having worse connection today. You're muted, Christina.
Ah, yeah, great. Thank you. So I will add you to the breakout session again. So hopefully you can join this time.
Okay, or if it's better for me to wait until it ends.
No, I think it should be all right. It will be 5 more minutes, so should be good.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Christina.
So apparently it did not work matching you to the breakout.
Okay. I can wait 5 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. No, don't worry. It's okay.
Okay, so everybody should be back very soon now.
Okay, perfect.
So in 30 seconds, the breakout session will end.
Okay. Sorry if I don't put the camera, but the connection
yeah,
is
no,
better.
it's perfectly all right with the connection issue. I totally understand. Okay, welcome back, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed the discussions in the breakout session. And of course, we are all curious on what you discussed. So does someone wants to share? You have to unmute yourself if you wanna share something you discussed.
Yeah,
Yes.
for me, like basically with Tin, Mel, and Hime, that we are talking about our own resilience, and then we learn something from each other. And then from when we ask you about whether there is a right and wrong questions about resilience, and you said it's much more about true to be yourself when you realize your resilience, if I'm not mistaken. And this thing like, oh yeah, that's what my aha moment for me. I don't know for the other group, for the other members, sorry.
Thanks for sharing, Gita. Yeah. Anyone else? No? Unmuting? If not, we can also go back to the presentation, and I will continue to share a little bit of insights from my point of view. So how to act resiliently. So first of all, like there are these like thinking traps, like I call them, like because when you like are stuck in a situation where you feel like, oh, I'm not resilient, it's sometimes a lot about like mind reading. So you assume like what the other is thinking, and like if you start assuming something negative, you like end up in this like, yeah, because you end up doing things that you probably would not intend to do in the same way because you think someone else is thinking something, and we all assume one way or the other, and it, especially in these situations when you are like not feeling that you are resilient or that you are like strong to be in this situation, mind reading is something where you like find yourself in your mind wandering in like this negative thoughts. So this is something like to watch out for. So like observe yourself in a situation like where you are like having doubts, and like if you are like thinking what someone else is thinking, and you might also have like made a wrong assumption at that point in time. Then the second point I would like to focus on is that this like seeing yourself as the cause of every setback and problem. And this is also something that you might experience like every once in a while. So just like take an easy example of like finding a parking lot for the car on the street, and you're just like, yeah, well, okay, it's my fault because I'm just like too late today, and that's why it's so difficult. And there might be like many other situations where, although you're not like you're not the only one, or you're not the one being the cause of the problem, but you think you are the cause of the problem. So this is also something to watch out for, like if you find yourself like trapped in this thinking pattern. Then there's like the opposite, rather like focusing on everybody else, like other people, other circumstances being the cause of every setback and problem. So if it's never you, it's always someone else like doing this and that, and because someone else was late, something happened, or because someone else like asked this questions, you got stuck in a presentation. That's also like this thinking pattern that doesn't help you necessarily to be more resilient, but rather like blaming someone else and seeing like someone else or like the circumstances as the problem, make you stick in this negative mindset and not necessarily looking for solutions, but rather sticking to problems. And then last but not least, you probably all know it as well, that you start catastrophizing. So it's like the irrational thinking that like kicks in, and you just like from one thing to another, you just add on, and it's getting like the whole story gets more like, and it ends up being a catastrophe, although it's not. And sometimes it's really the easy like early things that like start you thinking of, okay, if I don't find a parking lot, I will be late for my appointment, and then I miss this important presentation, and then if I miss this important presentation, I might lose my job, and when I lose my job, and you continue, and you're just like in this downward spiral with just like this tiny thing of, okay, I don't find a parking lot, that's like not the end of the world if we all look at it rationally. But sometimes it just feels very like the end of the world, and all these four like thinking patterns that have this like negative touch might help you not to be very resilient. So what I said before, like self-awareness is the first thing. So not only being self-aware of not being resilient, but also like getting stuck in this thinking patterns might help you already to realize, okay, I have to do something now. Now you're probably wondering, what do you do as a next step? And here I have like 3 tips prepared for you. The first one is looking for evidences. And you can easily, like if you start like being in the thinking traps, start off assuming like, okay, what are the evidences? Like, let's look at the pure facts. Like, and then you can start like this, like a sentence with the beginning of like, that's not true because, like, I will not lose my job because I'm not finding a park. That's not true because I will find a parking slot in like the garage down there and there will be a solution. And that's not true because I delivered many presentations before and it won't be the end of the world today. And that's not true because I won't be late for my meeting actually, and like they probably will wait for me. So you can just like start this like really watching for evidences that like help you to overcome it. The second one is reframing. So even though like you might be stuck in a situation, reframing can help you. And reframing here like is really focusing more on like an optimistic perspective. We talked about optimism before. So so here the phrase would be like, a more helpful way to see this is that I might like meet someone on the street, or like, just to stick to the example, or it might be also in a different situation, that there are many different ways of seeing it. And also in every bad there's something a good like part in it. There's at least in German this saying. So you'll really like focus on reframing and seeing the positive. And if you can't find the positive side yourself, ask someone else to help you to find like the positive view on a really challenging situation. And then last but not least, plan in advance. So especially with like these like shocking situations, or where you feel like, okay, you have to be very strong, very resilient in that moment, they might hit you harder if you're unprepared. So here it would be helpful if, for example, I think someone in a breakout group mentioned, if I miss a flight with like a CASV delegation, or if I miss a flight myself, well, then I will just stay one night at the airport and like contact everybody and it will be all right. Just like having planned that scenario through might help you be more relaxed in the situation, because you already like have a plan B. Same with like an important presentation at work, or like someone like not being nice to you. Just like, okay, if like someone is not nice to me, I will just go away and not talk to him the rest of the day. Might not be the nicest, but like just like to have like really a plan B to protect yourself and to be sure that you have a plan in mind of what to do. So so these three things is something that I would recommend, either if you find yourself in the situation, or just like very early on when you like start thinking the situations through and overthinking it every once in a while. So there is of course more, and I especially want to focus on the part of improving resilience with optimism, because here we have like even more concrete examples of what can help you to be more optimistic. I initially said that you can learn to be more optimistic. So so here this is from the Positive Psychology program, and they have this like 10 things to do to be more optimistic. And just like, I mean, you can read them through. I just want to highlight a few. So we talked about the personal connections and the social network before, but what we have not talked so far about is that about the second part, like this tendency to view like everything like as humongous, as a crisis, and like it's a little bit into the same direction as like this catastrophizing, but just like seeing this huge mountain in front of you and all the tasks you have to do, and this like great challenge, for example, of writing a thesis could be something that's like very stressful for many people. So here, like really taking it step by step, instead of like seeing like the big like wall or like the big mountain in front of you, but really taking the small steps and also celebrating these, like when you achieve the small things. And this might really help you. And also setting realistic goals. So if you like set yourself like too ambitious goals, it's really challenging to achieve them. This might be like a good idea for some but not for everybody. So if you set more realistic goals and really achieve something that you can celebrate, that can also help you to be more optimistic and see also the positive side. And
So, Christina,
yes.
So within this presentation, from 1 to 10, we choose 1 for our resilience, or what?
You can actually like choose several ones depending on the context. So for example, I'm sure it always helps you to have a support network. Like no matter what like else happens, if you have someone to talk about and have someone they you know you love you anyway, whatever happens, whatever you do, you like feel like safe. That is something like having a great basis. And then it really depends on the situation. And I would also say like the 10s, like taking care of yourself should always be a priority no matter what. And this also helps you to be more resilient in any situation. Because if you are like slept well, if you like stayed healthy, if you do a lot of sports, if you sleep well, like all these like tiny little things that help you to be more resilient because you're less stressed in general. So it's not necessarily about choosing one, but I would not recommend start working on all of these 10 right away, but rather like if you feel like, yeah, I might not be like taking enough care of myself, start with that one. Or if you feel like, well, I'm having like many negative thoughts, it might be important to focus more on the positive view of yourself and your abilities, start reflecting about your strengths. So this is just a list of things that you can do, and like if you like reached a level that is satisfying for you in these 10 areas, I would assume you would be more resilient than you've been before. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Great.
You.
Very welcome. Okay, then. Yeah, I will move on, or do you have any other questions on optimism? Okay, no questions in the chat, so I will continue. Yes, and I will actually do like one very concrete exercise now with you to practice gratitude, because also when it comes to optimism, it's all about being like grateful, and gratitude is a great tool to keep in mind and to start really collecting positive emotions. So when you have a weak moment where you're not as optimistic, you can just like think back or have a look at like what you collected as positive emotions. And there are like many different ways to show gratitude, and I just want to mention like a few examples on what you can concretely do to be more grateful. So I've made good experience with journaling. So just like write down the good things that happened, like if it's only 1, 2, or 3 things, just before you go to sleep, it will help you to just like close the day with a positive mindset. And it can be really the small things. Like, for example, like I'm grateful that I had breakfast with a friend today, or I'm grateful that I managed to have a swim, or I'm grateful that I like had like 4 like fruits today. It can be like really the small things that you include in your day to day. And you do not have to be grateful every day for the big achievements in life, but it's more this like mindfulness practice of collecting and focusing on the small things, like in the moment that day that like you ended up with positive emotions. So it can be moments, it can be people, it can be just emotions. And yeah, what also helps to be more grateful is thanking other people. Just like be thankful and like show this thankfulness, and this could also be a way to be more grateful in that sense. There's also this tendency that people that are more grateful are less materialistic. So really focusing on the small day to day, and maybe also helping others could be a way to cultivate this gratitude within yourself. And Yeah, and it's it can also be like, for example, a feedback wall where you like write down on post-its every positive feedback you get from others, so that it's not only your personal positive emotions, but also the positive feedback that you get from others. So if you just like start collecting all the positive feedback that you receive, either in calls, in day-to-day, in emails, in posts, just like collect it, write it down on a post-it, and you will see after a few weeks you will have a huge wall or place where you see all this like positive feedback, and that can also help you in a moment where you really need to get strength from another source as you don't feel it yourself. So these are the small things that I can really recommend. And to just like start that off, I would kindly ask you to participate in the next Menti again. So this time it's a different code, so watch out. And I will switch the screen again so that we start with something that you are thankful for today. So it's already late afternoon, so there should be something: sun, life, health, friends, health and love. Yes, having a deep conversation with my little brother, great example. CASV. Yeah, so personally, I feel like that every once in a while you might need someone to remind you to be thankful of something. So like that could also be something. If you like see that someone is having a bad day, just remember them of something that they could be thankful for, which already sparks a little bit of optimism and gives you might give you the necessary push to change your mind, at least for a small moment in time. Yes. Great. You're still coming up with things you're thankful for. So I think this is really great, and I can only encourage you to think of something that might help you to also collect these positive moments, and like thinking actively of what you are thankful for is a great practice that I really really recommend, and I made personally great experience with. So yeah, we are almost at the end of the session. So I would suggest that we do a little quiz today. So just to see on what we discussed and what you hopefully learned in this online session. So now you should be in the same Menti survey, and I see already you're joining the quiz. So you have to sign up for that one again. If you closed it, it's the same link as before, or the menti.com with this code. And yes, so 9 are there. We wait another minute before I start it, because it's quite a quick thing. You get more points when you answer the questions quickly. So be prepared, and we hopefully will also have a winner at the end of this little quiz. So I'm starting it now. Two, one, Great. Everyone has voted. That's already an achievement. Yes. So I asked, what is not a protective factor? You might remember the first part. So self-confidence is not necessarily like a factor that is really protecting you. It's rather like the self-awareness. So if you are overconfident, it might also not be helping, because you're just like missing your body signals, for example, and like just like ending up being super stressful in a situation. So 3 got it right. Great. Ready for the next question? As said before, if you answer fast, you get more points. What helps you to overcome thinking traps? Yes, this time it's more than one correct answer, and most of you were right. So correct, it's evidences, it's reframing, and it's planning. Then last question for today. What does not improve your resilience? Yes, here again, most of you are right. So it's mind reading, which is actually one of the thinking traps. And I also added the stable patterns, because you might remember we talked about mental agility and agility in the beginning, and flexibility is something that is important, and also adapting to change, as you have to embrace change as like a given ongoing situations. So nothing will be the same, not even like in the next hours. So yeah, so stable patterns might hinder you to be more resilient. And yeah, thank you very much for participating in this little quiz, and let's see who won. Yes, congratulations. I hope you know who you are. And thank you very much for participating. Yes, before we close, I have actually one more recommendation. So resilience is a broad topic, and there's a lot you can read about it. So just watch out for articles, especially now in these these times in 2020. It's broadly covered, and yeah, just like remind yourself every once in a while to think positive, be optimistic, and become more resilient. And to be closing in time, I would ask you to participate in the feedback. So the last Menti for today, here you can see the code and the QR code. As I'm curious, and you probably also are, I'm also sharing the feedback overview with you. And great, thank you very much for your feedback. We highly appreciate it, as this is still one of the first sessions that we are having online. So yes, Mel, maybe now it's the time to also announce 1 or 2 of our upcoming sessions, right?
Exactly. Thank you very much, Christina, for today's session. Thank you everyone for attending today. Yes, in about 2 weeks, so at the end of July, we're gonna have like another webinar about emotional intelligence by Esti Darmesti from CSV Indonesia that some of you know already. So yeah, I'm glad to have you here today, and I think it was quite interesting, and I think I got much more than expected, to be honest, from this session. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all very much for your time, and hopefully see you again in one or the other session. And if you have any other feedback, just drop us also an email, as we are still improving. And yes, and there, you can also have the presentation. We will also include it in the online platform we are creating. So we will hopefully make also the recording available. So no worries at all, and I'm happy to share it with all of you. Okay, then thank you very much. Thank you for your time. This hour passed really quickly for me, and hopefully see you again soon. Bye-bye.